Welcome to the Rising Entrepreneurs Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and their journey. Now, let's get started with the show.
All right, welcome everyone. John Corcoran here. I'm the co-host of this show. If you are new to this program, check out our archives because we've got all kinds of great past interviews with smart CEOs, founders, and entrepreneurs of all kinds of companies and organizations. And of course, this episode series is brought to you by EO San Francisco, which is a division of Entrepreneurs Organization, a global community of about 16,000 entrepreneurs working together to support one another and to grow entrepreneurship, support entrepreneurship in companies around the globe. To learn more about it, go to eosf.org. And my guest here today is Bo Ghirardelli. He went from teaching sixth grade English and social study in Watts in Los Angeles to the Peace Corps and Teach for America. He ended up becoming the co-founder and CEO of an organization called Sky's the Limit. It's one of the largest nonprofit programs for underrepresented young adult entrepreneurs in the U.S. He leads a team of 30 great people across software design and development, member experience, growth, and partnerships, and has generated over $10 million, primarily from national and global corporate partners, including Accenture, Goldman Sachs, PNC, CVC Capital, and many more. So we're going to learn all about Sky's the Limit and the great work that they do there today. And Bo, such a pleasure to have you here today. And first, I want to hear about the origin story here. Now, you had, as I mentioned in the intro, had been a teacher, had been in the Peace Corps, and had done Teach for America. And you were kind of inspired by the Arab Spring to go over to the Middle East. First, let's start with that. I watched it as it was fascinating as it unfolded. But what was the experience like for you going over and being part of that uprising, that movement?
Thanks, John. I think the reality of living and working in Morocco through the Peace Corps and during the Arab Spring was that lack of economic opportunity was really driving a lot of the problems, at least in the community I was living in. And the most important thing for me was to just listen to the community I was living in and the people there. And it quickly became obvious that if companies weren't hiring, how could working age young people who needed to put food on the table, how could they make money to support themselves and their families? And so entrepreneurship and necessity entrepreneurship was really a path that one of the few paths open to them. And so really those early years were about listening to the young people about their business ideas, figuring out what are the obstacles that they were facing to starting those businesses. So in the beginning, it was really about business planning and how do I take this idea and figure out how to launch it. And then, entrepreneurs had this business plan. They said, okay, now I need money to launch this. How do I find money? And go to the microfinance organizations, and they wouldn't lend to the entrepreneurs. They're too risky. And so I said, we'll just build our own microfinance loan fund. And we did, and we underwrote loans to the entrepreneurs we were serving. And then so they launched their businesses, and they said, okay, now what? We got to figure out how to keep this thing alive and grow it. And so we built a business mentoring program to help them learn from other businessmen and women in the community and set them up for success long term. So that was the genesis of our work.
And it's kind of a fascinating origin. So you had grown up speaking French, or you'd learned French, and you were placed in Morocco, right? Which has a lot of French speaking language. Is that right?
Yeah. I learned French in school and fell in love with it as a teenager on a trip there and with France and with Morocco and visiting it as a young person and learned a little bit of Moroccan Arabic, but yes, the French definitely helped.
And did you have the vision that this is something that I'm going to bring back to Oakland, where I was raised, when you were in the Middle East?
No, I think the reality was that we had some funders back in the Bay Area who helped seed the work in Morocco. And, after, we were getting real results, we had some of those funders say, hey, like this same problem exists in Oakland. And on a trip back started talking to some local community organizations and talking to the people that they serve. And sure enough, that it was absolutely true that young adult entrepreneurs who are experiencing poverty were not being served by the existing ecosystem. And so that gap was and that need was compelling, and why I moved back home to keep doing this work here.
I'm curious if there was ever a point where, when you were in Morocco, where you'd gone from teaching English, social studies, Teach for America, and then all of a sudden you're halfway across the world away from home. And did you ever think like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? As you're in the midst of this historic, revolutions are happening in different countries and things like that. I know I've felt that in life. Like there are times when you just gotta like, oh my gosh, like what did I do?
Yeah, definitely moments like that. I mean, I still think teaching was actually the hardest thing I've ever done. So I'd say starting out, first job doing that, I think was what was prepared well for what happened. But it was a lonely times, and certainly lots of challenges just with the day to day that you just wouldn't expect or think about when you're starting a business in a country you've grown up in.
Right.
That you got to overcome. There's a lot of learning new culture, learning subcultures within that country, and figuring out how to navigate, life and
Right.
and the way people work, and isn't just not the same from place to place. Shocker.
Now, so you're back in the Bay Area where you grew up, and you have this model that you've used in North Africa. And then you start knocking on doors of different companies around the Bay Area saying, hey, we've got this idea to invest in little, micro businesses and help young adults to start businesses here in Oakland, the BayArea. That must have been hard from the beginning, because these companies, these large companies in the Bay Area have got no shortage of different nonprofits out there to choose from.
Yeah, absolutely. I think what was compelling to our early funders, and who weren't necessarily the bigger corporations we partner with now, was just that the reality that there was a gap in the ecosystem and services, right? I think some nonprofits have very similar services to a lot of other nonprofits, and they have a hard time differentiating themselves, or they can have that trouble. But I think pointing to the obvious gap, and then pointing to the demand we were seeing from the entrepreneurs we were targeting in our community, was compelling enough to them. And sure enough, what happened, after those early days was, in 2015, we received 5,000 applications from entrepreneurs, young adults across the country, who were saying, hey, I want what you're doing. This doesn't exist in my community either. And so it wasn't just Oakland and the Bay Area that was experiencing this gap or this need. That evidence of demand for what we're doing was really one of the more compelling things for some of the companies that we work with, because we took that evidence to them and said, look, this is a much bigger problem than the 100 people we're serving now. This is thousands of people we could be serving. And so that took us down a path of launching and transforming ourselves from a brick and mortar nonprofit to a tech nonprofit, so that we could build a digital platform to deliver our business mentoring services, our entrepreneurship training, and our startup grants program to entrepreneurs in every state, rural, urban environments, et cetera.
And that must have been a big leap. What was it like as you kind of unveiled that or rolled that out or discussed that with, donors and other supporters?
Yeah, I mean, we had to reinvent ourselves, right? And so I roped in my longtime friend and tech entrepreneur, Nick Carey, who's is also the co-founder of blockchain.com, which is one of the largest crypto exchanges in the world. And at the same time he was co-founding that, he was like, hey, sure, like I really care about this, and really worked with me to lay out the technology vision for the organization. And then we pitched that to Accenture, who's our largest corporate funder, and they helped us hire and staff the team. And we did it through a really innovative partnership with them, where they gave us designers, product managers, front and back end engineers, and essentially seconded those people to our organization. And that's what we built our sky'sthelimit.org platform, with that team, and still have some of them working with us today.
My wife works at a community college, and community colleges are interesting because when the economy does really well, enrollment goes down. When the economy does not do well, enrollment shoots up. Have you experienced something similar like that, where, if jobs are plentiful, there aren't as many people coming into your organization, and if the unemployment rate goes up, then you've got a lot of people who are coming looking for your services, and maybe at the same time too that people aren't as likely to make donations because the economy's not doing as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think the nature of our work with our corporate partners is one of very long-term partnership, right? So that has, and we go deep. We create a lot of value for them, while creating value for our entrepreneurs and for the volunteers we serve. So having a mutually beneficial arrangement with all of our partners is really important to us, and I think that's helped us, run the long, run the long marathon here of being over a decade in to the organization. But as far as what drives more people coming to Sky's the Limit, I think it's really just about the aspirations of young adults. We've seen pretty steady growth and steady demand for what we do. Whether the economy's hot or whether the economy's down. I mean, certainly during COVID, starting businesses in the, that are brick and mortar, that went away. But, we serve the first generation of digital native entrepreneurs, right? So building companies virtually, or delivering products and services where there's no, face-to-face interaction, that all comes quite naturally to our entrepreneurs. So we've seen pretty just consistent demand, and certainly whenever people feel like they aren't able to achieve their dreams in the existing realm of opportunities that they're facing, and sometimes that economy's hot or economy's cold, both of those situations really see entrepreneurs questioning whether what they're doing now is actually achieving their dreams, and entrepreneurship is a path for that, to help people feel like they're chasing their purpose, their meaning, what they love, they're passionate about, and so that's who we serve a lot of.
Now, you had some success stories. You had one individual recently launch a short-term rental company, generated $300,000 in revenue in a year, which is amazing. Talk about some of those different success stories that you've had.
Yeah, I mean, we work with incredible entrepreneurs, and who are, often underestimated by other traditional ecosystem players in entrepreneurship, like venture capitalists, et cetera. Justin was able to create this really, he found this midterm rental niche, and was able to build a successful business and tap into the networking community and of mentors and other entrepreneurs to learn from him, and support him in building that business. Another entrepreneur, Brianna, who's just incredible, is she's a victim of trafficking, and the dream for her was to create a business where she could employ other victims of trafficking, give them a place to heal from their trauma while they were making money. And so that was really the intent behind her business, and worked with her to support her to launch a gourmet popcorn company, which is delicious popcorn. Katrina's Popcorn is the name of the company. And she was able to work with the network, learn, build, connect, and eventually secure some big partnerships that have allowed her to hire over 10 people into her company, and create a place for healing and for work too. So
That's really cool.
incredible entrepreneurs we work with. I mean, Asia is a young entrepreneur who uh, through a tragedy in her personal life, where she lost her premature twins, and then gave birth to another set of premature twins, witnessed the lack of good infant formula for her babies, and this personal experience really drove her business called Bunny, where she's building a infant formula that is tailor made to fit the needs and the delicate needs of premature born babies, which is the many children, and the current market just doesn't offer what she needed for her kids. And so the entrepreneurs I think that we serve have overcome tremendous obstacles in their lives, and building a business is just another way for them to self-actualize and chase those dreams that they have, and we're proud to be supporting them all along the way.
I imagine for you, one of the harder parts of your jobs is kind of choosing who is your horse that you're going to support and who not, because you have finite number of resources. And I imagine part of the calculus is, well, who do we think is going to follow through on this? Who do we think is going to, going to do the work that they need to do in order to be successful?
Yes.
How do you make that determination?
Well, so I think we don't, right? We don't. I don't. Our team doesn't. What the way we've thought about that is looking at and providing an opportunity for all entrepreneurs, if they are committed to accessing the services and the community. For example, with our startup grant fund, we actually have the community select who wins those grant funds. We don't have a central grant committee. We don't have some group of people in secret making decisions. Instead, on our platform, making positive contributions to the community earns you points, and you get to use and spend those points to vote on who should win startup grants. So you can see everybody's profile, see what they're trying to raise money for, and you can select yourself who wins. And so in that way, the people who are creating the most value in the community have the biggest voice in deciding who wins our startup grants.
Fascinating model. And then appropriate for a Bay Area based tech focused organization like yourself. You're looking at launching a DAO, which for those who haven't heard that term before, what is that? And what's that going to look like for you?
Yeah, we're really excited about the promise of blockchain technology to help communities feel real ownership over their communities, particularly in a virtual space. So a decentralized autonomous organization is essentially controlled by a crypto token, and this token acts as shares in this organization, in this treasury. And so what we're planning on doing is moving some of our funds for the startup grant fund to this DAO, and then issuing the token to the community. In the same way that we issue points now, we're going to replace that with a token. And so the entrepreneurs and volunteers in the community will truly own and control this pot of money in a way that they don't now. And I think that true sense of ownership will bring the community together. And so the money that we give out will only be one benefit to this evolution of our model. But truly, we think communities thrive when people feel ownership over them, and that is what this will allow us to do. And we'll be able to do it in a really transparent way. So, one of the benefits of blockchain technology is the transparency around them and the trust that builds. So the community will be able to see everything that happens, see who's voting and where the money's moving, et cetera. So And we've heard from some people over the years that we think people are holding back from contributing to nonprofits because they don't know about where the money's going or where the impact's happening. And we want to address that. And we think Web3 technology is directly solving that problem, along with a couple others that I mentioned.
It's a fascinating model. I've learned a little bit about it. In some ways, there are other models in the business world. ERISA, I think, is the name of it. The kind of the model for employees to own interest in a company. But this is fascinating. The kind of next level ownership management, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes. Well, Bo, this has been fascinating. Where can people go to learn more about you and check out Sky's the Limit?
Yeah, it's right in the name. skysthelimit.org is where you'll find us, or you can email me directly at bo@skysthelimit.org if you'd like to learn more.
bo@skysthelimit.org, not BEAU, correct?
Got it.
All right, Bo. Thanks so much.
Thanks, John.
Thanks for listening to the Rising Entrepreneurs Podcast. This episode is powered by Rise 25. Please subscribe and check out future episodes.